A client called and we had a meeting with this person, and it's a 10-year client, and they said, you know what? Every time I call, your team acts as if they have no idea who I am. They never acknowledge me. They just treat me like another ticket. They didn't have logoed shirts for their team. And we talked about the power of uniformity within the whole organization. It makes us feel that we're part of the entire team. But also for our clients, it creates a perception of detail. We don't realize how powerful our outer appearance is, and how quickly people make perceptions and what we call value judgments. As granular as we get with data backup, we need to get granular with our voices, with our, all of our etiquette and our soft skills, because we don't want to be perceived as a commodity. You can't be everybody's celebrity, but where can you be?
Make sure that who you are and what you do is clear in your branding. Otherwise, people are not going to resonate with you.
Hi, everybody. Prepare to be inspired by Lisa Shore, a renowned speaker, author, and branding coach. Lisa's transformative Shore to Shine system and brand method have helped businesses achieve remarkable growth. Find out how you can apply her strategies to your brand.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
I'm really pleased to have you. Can you tell me a little bit about the journey that led you to create Shore Success and the brand method?
Absolutely. So my journey began actually in sales. My degree is in marketing, and I was selling books for Houghton Mifflin in Boston. And I was working trade shows and all kinds of different sales. However, one girl that I used to work with said, I have someone for you. And I said, oh, no, I'm good. And she said, no, let me introduce you to him. You're going to love him. He's a great guy. So lo and behold, I moved myself from Boston to Rhode Island, and I met my husband, Eric, and we married. But when we were dating, he knew my degree was in marketing, and he had a fledgling IT business. We call it a managed services provider company. And at the time, it was a break fix shop. Computer broke, he fixed it. But my degree's in marketing. And he's, hey, can you create a brochure for me? And I said, okay. And then where are we going on our date? So that sort of started our journey together. And now we just celebrated 24 years this year, married. But I've been hanging out in the IT world, learning and growing my knowledge of this industry and my passion for this industry for 25 years. Shore Success started it was 2015, I got some official certifications, but I started as a stylist. So I started really exploring, working with professional women on their clothing, their closets, color analysis as a part-time thing. But then my IT company was struggling. And really what was the push of all of this is we got fired because of our phone skills. Well, a client called and we had a meeting with this person, and 10-year client, and they said, you know what? Every time I call, your team acts as if they have no idea who I am. They never acknowledge me. They just treat me like another ticket. And so that was a real eye-opening experience for my husband and myself. So me as a marketer, I was getting us written up press releases and all these big announcements. We were doing local awards, Tech 10 awards. But what I was missing was the most important marketing, and that's the human side and the people in our company. And how were we leading them? How are Eric and I, my husband's name is Eric, how are Eric and I leading our company? And because I was a stylist, there is a very distinguished organization called the Association of Image Consultants. And it's an international organization. And from there, I learned and I took programs and courses on how to become and expand my knowledge and services to image consulting, which means I'm focusing on the whole appearance part of it, communication, and our behavior. So ABC, appearance, behavior, and communication. And today it's your digital presence as well. But what were we saying? How are we saying it? Nonverbal communication, all of the different nuances of handling difficult conversations. I then explored all of those certification programs, and I've taken that back to my company, my MSP. Let me take it to the road. And so Sure Success was born. And then I formalized the coaching that I did in my own MSP and turned it into the brand method, which is what we have today.
A great story. I like that you moved and met your husband. That's a good story. One of the things you do is called the brand method. What are the key pillars of that method, and how does it help businesses build a stronger brand?
So brand is an acronym. My brain works like methodically. I need a process. And so I had to think, how do I build these brands of my team? And I'm like, oh, why don't I just turn brand into my acronym? And then I can turn that into a formal coaching framework. And so B stands for our behavior. And that's our using emotional intelligence to determine how we're feeling and how we need to respond in any number of situations. We're all getting heightened because we're working with people typically who don't know technology. So they're already feeling stressed and frustrated, but our actions and our behavior cannot be that. We cannot mirror that stress. We have to calm people down. We have to provide a level of support. So that was B. Now, R is all about respect. What I was learning is that Eric and I weren't teaching our team our brand. What does it stand for? What are our core values? What are my team's personal core values? And how do we align those to be important, to be really meaningful? And then we also talk about respecting clients, brands. What does it mean to show up on time? What does it mean to sound friendly? What does it mean to be groomed and our appearances be professional? So that was I was originally Sure Style and then and rebranded to Sure Success to be more professional company and team-wide focused versus individual focused. So that's our appearance, but one piece of it's our clothing and wardrobe, but the other piece is our nonverbal communication. How do we sit if we're in a virtual meeting? What is our camera placement? Are we rolling our eyes when we're in a meeting? What do we look like, sound like? N is all about networking. So this is the only part of the brand method that takes the other pieces and puts it into action. So it's meeting with clients. So in those quarterly business review meetings, or maybe you call them technical business review meetings, it could be sales going out and actually building and generating awareness and leads. Could be a vendor getting on that stage to create awareness. But most importantly, it's also our team of engineers. So when you were the chief technology officer, you had a team under you, and your team had an impact on client success. So I talk about the power of our service delivery team and their power of making recommendations. If they see something when they're on site, they're fixing, they're adding a switch to the network and the switch is full. But the salesperson internally has been trying to get them to upgrade their switch forever. However, the engineer goes in there and they're their day-to-day trusted advisor. And so they can make that recommendation. So we talk a lot about power of rapport building, power of our voice and how to make that ask. And then D is our dynamic dialogue, and our language can never be static. Our voice, our tone always has to be changing based on your role in the company, based on the activity. So a dispatcher answering the service line needs to be excited at first. But then when they hear that the client on the other end is stressed or nervous because they have a deadline and they can't find a file, then we have to change our tone, lower it down, show empathy, show urgency. And those are so many nuances that aren't discussed in the IT department. It's not discussed often because we're so focused on all of the emergencies that we're putting out and making sure we're in our comfort zone of technology. But really why people make a difference and go with us is because of our phone skills. I built in phone skills training now as well. How to answer a call, scripting for everything, transferring calls right on through. It takes years to build reputation, but an instant to lose it. And we don't want to lose it because of a rolling of an eye or an edgy tone in our voice. Oh,
yeah. It's funny that you say that too, because when I was a CTO, one of the biggest challenges I had was on one side of the equation, I had other executives who had zero tech knowledge. And on the other side, I was dealing all day with my team that obviously had a lot of tech knowledge. And so trying to come up with a way to communicate without jargon that would work with both sides. It was a game changer once I figured it out, but figuring it out wasn't easy. No. And what I learned real quickly was I tried to have a system where I would be jargon free with the non-technical people and I'd use the jargon with my team. But the problem is you slip into what you do the most. And since I'm with my team more often than not, when I talk to the non-technical people, I'd find myself slipping into that. So I changed my approach to just be no jargon, just speak plain English.
I love that.
And when I lived in Orange County before, I was voted most user-friendly technologist. And basically they said that this guy, he can come into your office, he'll ask you some questions and explain to you in plain English what needs to happen. And it's a huge skill to develop. And it's one of the things we teach with our decentralized A-team method is how to speak jargon free and get people on that right path. So I agree with you. Imagine, even if you're running an IT department in a company, the other employees are your customers. If they call in and everyone sounds like they're too busy to talk to them, or man, this is such an inconvenience, then people are going to get upset. A lot of people don't call at all. And then they suffer through broken equipment and whatnot, and their job performance goes down.
Who wants to call them? They don't want to be, no one wants to call them. And then they feel, how do you build someone's confidence if they're not being acknowledged for the good that they're doing, or people don't want to call them? It begets negativity versus what we really want for our team, and that's growth. So
exactly.
Growth mindset.
So do you have any kind of success story where your strategies transformed a company's performance?
Absolutely. So I have a company that I worked with, and I worked with their 5 managers, and each manager had their own struggle. First of all, they didn't establish goals. So they needed to first figure out where they wanted to be. So we talked about a few key goals, which were their revenue goals, their overall revenue goals, their profitability goals, and then also their managed recurring revenue goals. So in the MSP world, the managed services world where I'm sitting right now, we run our numbers, our sales by what's called managed services. And those are what we, monitoring clients, networks, and all of that. And so that's a big number for us because that's fixed income every month. When we can establish that and get contracts on that, and that's some established fixed income. So that really helps to know how much we have coming in every month, what our bills are, and we can really measure against that. So we started there. And then we started talking about, okay, how do you host a QBR? Because they were not regularly meeting with their clients. So they had a good amount of clients, but there's so much upsell opportunity. There's so much growth opportunity. There's referral opportunity if we just ask. And so we set goals around scheduling each quarter. 2 different people on that team were responsible. And then we talked about uniforms for their entire team. They didn't have logoed shirts for their team. We talked about the power of uniformity within the whole organization and makes us feel that we're part of the entire team. But also for our clients, it creates a perception of detail. We don't realize how powerful our outer appearance is and how quickly people make perceptions and what we call value judgments. They're judgments based on each individual's history, their upbringing, their culture, and we bring that to the table. We bring that to our workplace every day. So we completely transformed that. And I am proud to say they engaged me a couple of different times because then I came back for more goal setting. And I'm just so proud of them because they doubled their gross revenue in a couple of years. And it's really been an ongoing process to see where they are now. We're still connected socially. They're on my newsletter list and all of that. I still hear from them. And it's amazing to see their evolution. Not once did I mention tech stacks because that's not my forte. You don't want me to talk technical and I understand the mindset of a technician, but I cannot talk to you about how to provision a firewall. So don't ask me that. But it's just amazing to see. And there are a variety of companies. One company took my phone skills training, and they have half their team is in India, half their team is here. And part of my coaching, we create scripts around answering a call consistently. Because remember, I got fired for that. So I make it a point now, because I'm so triggered by it, that it's part of my coaching now. He took all of the scripts that we wrote together and put them online. It was pretty cool. Usually it's like a hand paper that each team member gets, but this one, they created it and they put it online. Some companies use my training as onboarding. And when new employees come on, they use the foundation, because my coaching includes workbooks as well as coaching, one-on-one group coaching. It's pretty neat to see some of those results.
It's interesting you say that, because early on, when I started doing coaching for tech executives, you'd get an HR department would see the results that the tech executive got, and they'd come to me and they'd say, can you adapt this to the entire executive team? And I say, of course I can. That's pretty much the same thing, except I don't have to tell them not to speak in jargon. But otherwise, balancing out your life and how to manage your team is pretty much the same. But then they'd act as though it was a one-off engagement. I'm with Mr. A, Mr. B, and Mr. C, and it's a one-off engagement. And I say, what we have to do before we finish this whole process is come up with documentation that you can have that use your training for onboarding. That's what everyone should do. Right. Because you might spend, I think that engagement was a $75,000 engagement. They're going to spend almost $100,000 to teach these 3 executives how to manage their team, but then let it go. After that, those 3 executives leave the company 5 years from now. That information goes with them. And I told them, you paid this money to get a system that you can teach to the next person and the next person and the next person. And they were shocked by that. They never thought about that. You were there, you trained them on something, and now they're using it to onboard people. That says a lot about the results you brought them, because why else would they utilize the tool?
It's amazing to me. In the IT world, we take it very seriously. We monitor backups, right? Let's just use backups as an example. Mm-hmm. We daily look at our logs. We go online, we look to see if anything is red. And if there's something red, that means there's a problem with the backup. There's a problem with the hard drive. It needs space and whatever. Every day we look at that. I lose sleep over that as a business owner. But why don't we, and my mission, and I'm grateful, Mike, to have this platform. My mission is to change and expand the mindset of this IT community to thinking and understanding we have to do every day some soft skills training, conversation. Doesn't have to be training, but some acknowledgement of how we speak, of how we dress, of difficult conversations, and how do we respond to them? Coming up with language of what we want to hear when we're answering the phone, or if a hot lead comes in, how do we handle it so that we're not bungling it? All of those different pieces. Or for renewing the contract, what do we need to look like? What do we wear for that, first of all? How do we prepare for that so we look like we have detailed, oriented, and prepared? What does our voice need to sound like? As granular as we get with data backup, we need to get granular with our voices, with all of our etiquette and our soft skills, because we don't want to be perceived as a commodity. We want to be perceived as an advisor. And that's really the delineation, because in the IT world, we all offer the same products and services, but what sets us apart? It's our likability. It's that trust. It's that credibility that's built over time. And so it's critical. Why don't we do the same with our image and the way that our company is perceived? When we have a great corporate image, it means that the humans behind it are all understanding the core values of the company. They feel valued, and the culture is one of cohesiveness and collaboration and understanding we all have a role in client success. Every single person, no matter your role.
One of the things I've been working with my clients on lately is personal branding, because they're trying to attract top talent, and those people are going to look them up on social media. They're going to see what they're about. And I try to teach them to put their personal brand out there. So what role do you think personal branding plays in professional success?
It's the foundation. Your personal brand has, two parts to it. It's your executive presence, so that when you walk in the room, people want to listen to you. You command attention, not demand it. You have that eye contact and strong handshake, and people are just like, what does Mike have to say? I want to hear it. The other critical component of a personal brand is being memorable. What do they say about you when you're not in the room? And that's critical to success in business, success in growing, your role as a manager, as a leader, as a CTO, because you want to be memorable for the right reasons, for the wrong reasons. There was a study by Daniel Kahneman who did what's called the peak end rule, but it's essentially people remember the most important and impactful parts of a relationship or of an experience. When we're building our brands, we want to be remembered for our whatever your core values are. My personal core values include integrity and compassion. So I want people to see that I live my life by integrity and do the right thing, but I'm also really compassionate toward other humans and understand that everyone's raised differently and we're all different people. So that's where I'm building my brand. And of course, as a credible, knowledgeable image expert on how to really get ahead, grow your career, your small business, whatever that may be, or grow where your journey is in your career. That's what I want to be known for.
I think it's interesting because I have 4 children, 2 that are in their early 30s, 2 that are in their early 20s. And they've gone on the same family vacations, done the same activities as each other. And then when you talk to them individually, what they remember about it is so different from each other. And I don't mean as in they misremember. I just mean what they found. Maybe you go to a place and you go, we took a trip to Colorado Springs one time, and there's a canyon that's there that I can't remember what it's called now. Something God. And I know it might be Valley of the Gods because here we have Valley of Fire. But whatever it was called, we did a hike, and then we went to some store that was a candy store place. And when you talk to the kids, some of them remember the hike. Some of them remember the rocks that we saw. And I'm talking, this is 10 years later, after the fact. It's interesting to me what stands out to a person. And I think that's why, to me, it's why personal branding is so important, because you have to put out there who you are and what your mission, vision, values are. And then some people are going to resonate with that and some aren't. But it saves everybody so much time by you putting out there who you are. So that kind of leads me to this question. What is your favorite brand, mascot, or logo? And why do you think it's so effective?
I think that's a good one. Let me think for a second. I think Nike, to be honest, I think the Nike logo has the historic connotation. They have done an amazing job with their tagline, just do it. Everybody recognizes Nike. They have partnered with celebrities, Michael Jordan. To me, as a marketer, such smart marketing. One of the key things about marketing that I feel very strongly about is you have to to really be impactful. It's important to pick an industry and specialize in that, become the celebrity in that, which is one of the reasons you and I are together, because my favorite industry that I know intimately is the IT world. This is my industry. I know what an engineer looks like, sounds like, how we want to be behind a computer versus in front of it. I live this every day and I know. And so Nike is athletes. They know it. They know who you're not going to see Nike, but you're not going to see them aligning with anything but an athletic realm. And I think that's very smart and very clever how they have built their brand with quality products. They're not known for cheap. They're not known for being cheap, the cheapest option. You don't want to be known for the cheapest option. You want to be known as the one that people invest in because you provide so much value. And so that's the first logo that comes to my mind. I use Nike as one of my logos. I use Starbucks logo. I use the Apple logo. So those are a few other logos that I really identify with that I feel have built brands. And LinkedIn, by the way, is another one of my logos that hone in on a target audience and go there with it and make no apologies for not being in other industries. You can't be everywhere. Where can you be?
Yeah, I think the logo for like you mentioned 3 that I think are iconic because they're so simplistic. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss is most people see the logo at about this size because they're looking on a website. And if you make it too complicated and a lot of words on it or whatnot, no one knows what it is. And I could then take that logo out of there, mix it in with a bunch of the iconic ones and no one would know what it was just because, and then they may even be a customer of the company that has that logo, but they'd be completely clueless because when it's cluttery like that, your brain just dismisses it. Like the Apple logo. If you could rebrand any famous company, which one would you choose? And what changes would you make?
If I could rebrand any company, which one? Like Sonic Wall, but they're good. I like to rebrand a lot of startups that are coming onto the market, a lot of AI startups, and they're like complicated names or they're names that I just don't understand. I just came back from some trade conferences. I was at IT Nation, ConnectWise, IT Nation. I spoke there. I'll be at Kaseya's DattoCon coming up in October. And I walk through the halls. And half the time, I don't even know how to pronounce the name. So be very careful because we want to be memorable and be able to communicate. I'll give an example of my company. We used to be PC troubleshooters. And we would work trade shows and people would come up to us and be like, can you fix my sophisticated needs or do you just fix PCs? And this is when managed services was really evolving and coming onto this, like probably 2008, when managed services were really coming into play. And we were like, yeah, we can do that. And then finally in 2012, I brought some key clients into the room. I brought employees into a big conference room and I said, when you think of us, give me words. What do you think of? So we went through the whole process of rebranding and a number of people use the word future. And you think about our future. We're good with our future. Through a process, we came up with Secure Future Tech Solutions. And that's secure. We want to secure your future.
Makes sense.
As the marketer of the company, it's important to know when the branding is over. Meaning when the old brand worked and you need to upgrade yourself or you need to revamp because your old name doesn't depict who you are today. And now people say, oh, how are you going to secure us? And they come up to our table in a whole different light. It's just amazing the power of branding. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I've learned that the hard way. About 4 years ago, we launched a educational platform and we were mostly aiming it for entrepreneurs. We did our market research. We found out what their pain points were, what we should help solve. And then we named it the Small Business Bootcamp and we put it out and nobody joined.
Huh.
So then I surveyed people again and I said, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur or a small business owner? And anyone who I knew as a small business owner never answered entrepreneur. And anyone who I knew was entrepreneurial never answered small business owner. Yet to me, they were interchangeable, right? Those terms were interchangeable. But because of that, if people don't see themselves in the name of the thing you're trying to sell, they're like, that's not for me. That isn't for, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a small business. So I don't need to do that. We learned from that and we created something called the Entrepreneur's Water Cooler, which was essentially the same idea, but it's aimed at stay-at-home entrepreneurs. So like a mompreneur, a dadpreneur who have kids, etc. And so just that little change made all the difference in the world. So people heed that warning that make sure that who you are and what you do is clear in your branding. Otherwise, people are not going to resonate with you at all. That's an interesting story. Like when you said, what did you say the company was called? PC
Troubleshooters.
Troubleshooters. It sounds like you only deal with home grandma and grandpa's computers broken. I'm going to go fix it. Almost like your competition to the Geek Squad.
And we started that way, but that was in 1992.
And you evolved. Yeah, you evolved. So the name has to change too. The branding has to change. Why don't you let the listeners know how they can connect with you if they'd like to ask you some questions or maybe they need some services?
Thank you so much, Mike, for having me. Visit shoresuccess.com and there's my calendar link is right there. Top 1/3 of the website is my calendar link. please book some time with me. Let's talk about how your team can really be a profitable asset to your company growth. Or talk about some of the struggles you're having with phone skills or what have you, but it's suresuccess.com. And be sure to grab my book on Amazon. And it's called Your Brand Unleashed. And I'm excited that it's coming out, and it's my framework. It's the the workshop that I teach. It's all the framework to help you grow the soft skills in your business to true success and to create those clients for life that we all really need to be profitable and successful.
Awesome. Everybody, make sure you grab a copy of that book. I do appreciate your time here. I know it's hard sometimes to take time in the middle of the day to sit down and chat with somebody, but you did that, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you for that.
I'm very thankful for the opportunity, and everybody think soft skills. You can do it every day, a little something, every day, a thought, a topic, but so important. Think about your soft skills and how it impacts client experience.
Thanks everybody for being here for another episode of Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. We have new episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube and LinkedIn. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and you'll be back next week for another exciting episode.